This is the Nation's Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. Another day and more predictive programming. More of the same exact Hollywood movies that reveal the same exact government plot, the same exact government conspiracy that we all are trying to expose day in and day out. And part of Agenda 2030 is going to require some type of cyber attack that takes us all offline for a temporary period of time. And of course, this ties in to that great reset theory where once we're all offline and come back online, you can expect those bank runs and your bank account to be reset to zero. And of course, many people out there think still that that's a conspiracy, but much like all of us who were talking before 2020 about what to expect because of all the things that they showed us, that they told us, because people like myself and others listened to what they were talking about at all of these globalist meetings that they attend, we all knew that there was going to be some kind of a major global outbreak. And of course, we got that in full. And we got Event 201 as well beforehand. There will be a major cyber attack at some point in time. And of course, you've been getting programmed for this. You've heard all the stories over the years, whether you've heard them on my channel or heard them in the fake mainstream news media about AT&T being hacked, about emails and Gmail being hacked, hack this, hack that, how your data isn't safe, how you're not safe. And of course, this will all lead to us going offline for a temporary period of time to come back online and for them to implement a digital ID among other enslavement tools that people will beg for once they deal with life offline, even for a short period of time. This is Predictive Programming 101. And for anybody out there that doesn't understand predictive programming, it's as simple as this. A form of magic showing us these things, revealing these things to us ahead of time. They subtly plant ideas in our minds, in the consciousness of the public, to prepare them for future events and how to respond when those events actually occur. They show you grid shutdowns and they show you chaos in the streets and looting. It's a form of mind control. And this movie, Zero Day, stars Robert De Niro, who has been at the face recently of all of the political theater that we've seen play out with him versus Donald Trump and him versus MAGA. He is another Illuminati shill where we see him constantly doing the all-seeing eye symbolism. He's always been one. This isn't something that's new. And I'm going to play for you now clips from the trailer as well as some of the directors and producers talking about the plot. Of course, the theme of the movie includes an inside job of a cyber attack, massive grid shutdowns, train crashes, plane crashes, mass casualties, unlimited government surveillance powers, banking system shutdowns, and of course, arrests without warrants. And they hint in this movie of Robert De Niro's character having a mental decline and the parallel to Joe Biden. You can't make this stuff up how they reveal these things to us, and they pretend, of course, that these are just writers who are creative, they're artistic, right? These are government operatives who put these films out there because they're told to put these films out there because the government are masters of mind control. This goes back to Operation Paperclip. This goes back to MK Ultra. This is a form of mind control used on the subconscious mind of the masses. And again, it unfolds right in front of their faces. And just like the outbreak did, they still didn't see it coming ahead of time. And even when it occurred, we have people out there defending the same people and the same system that did this deliberately to them. Here is some of the scenes and the trailer from this new Netflix series, Zero Day.
3,402 people died on Zero Day.
Absolute nationwide terror.
Computer system is completely hijacked. Every phone in America displayed the same haunting message. This will happen again.
Congress is authorizing a special zero-day commission hunting down anyone who aided and abetted.
They're just going to grab people off the streets without warrants.
This is the greatest affront to civil liberties ever. The public finds out how deep this really is. I don't think we survive that.
This really could happen.
The aftermath of a devastating cyber attack kills thousands of people.
In the aftermath of that attack, country forms a zero-day commission.
This commission that's formed has more power than anybody has ever had in the history of the country.
Grab people off the streets without warrants.
Actually, you are. All of the things that we have in place to check people's power are all paused, and the commission can do whatever they want.
What would unfettered government really look like? What would all-powerful government do?
I think what's exciting and propelling about this show is that it feels like something that could actually happen.
How would the federal government respond to that? And are we prepared to deal with it?
And of course, after many people have seen this, they say, could the plot of Netflix's Zero Day actually occur? I mean, you even hear some of the actors and actresses and the directors and producers talking about what's so neat about this show is the fact that this could happen in real life. Yeah, that's real neat. It's real neat to know that we can't trust our own government. Of course, none of us should. And it's real neat to know that this could happen in real life. Which again, it's not going to be a coincidence when it happens because you're being programmed into accepting it when it happens. And you've been getting programmed, like I said earlier, for years and years and years to believe that when a cyber attack occurs, that it's some guy wearing a hoodie who is in a factory somewhere in China or in Russia, right? All the images you've seen of a guy in a mask, an anonymous mask, or just a hoodie with no face. That's the programming to convince you that when it occurs, that it could just be some random person who has the ability to hack into the government's entire infrastructure and take it down. And of course, you would think that this would be the top priority of the government, knowing how weak our infrastructure is, but the government is sabotaging our infrastructure. So they tell you that we're vulnerable to cyber attacks. They tell you that we're vulnerable to a power grid shutdown, but they don't do anything about it, right? And that's all, of course, done by design. So all the articles that are out there about the plot of the movie, could it actually come true? Oh, it will come true. And how do we know this? Well, we know this because our same friends who brought us Event 201, our same friends who meet and conspire out in the open with Republicans and Democrats, you know, the same people would say at the World Economic Forum, who Donald Trump has no problem going there and speaking there, whether in person or whether a few days after his inauguration, speaking via video conference, and these people still defend him. He doesn't oust them. He doesn't cut off all American ties with them. He talks to them as if they're his friends. And here they all are over the years, talking about post-pandemic, how the next big thing is going to be a cyber attack. How convenient that they knew we were going to have a pandemic and we had one. And how convenient that they know there's going to be a massive, massive cyber attack, which would be worse than any pandemic, right? Here they all are talking about it, letting you know that it's coming.
Global Security Outlook Report 2023. This is a result of research in collaboration with the forum's communities and our partner Accenture, which we've interviewed and sought input from over 300 executives globally. The most striking finding that we found is that 93% of cyber leaders and 86% of cyber business leaders believe that the geopolitical instability makes a catastrophic cyber event likely in the next 2 years.
But still,
Fly in the coop, but I need some more. Your antics make me bored, cause I just came around to say hello.
but still, pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services. Our society as a whole would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
And of course, when we all talk about a great reset occurring, well, in order to create a great reset, they're going to need people's bank accounts to reset. Because there has to be a general public who all have trusted in their government and put all their money and everything digitized, so that when the government decides to flip a switch and blame it on an invisible boogeyman and everybody goes back into their bank accounts online, there's nothing in there. And what's everybody going to do about it? Yell and scream while they're underground for a few months? Eventually everybody's going to forget about it because they're going to be trying to find food and water to survive. Because something will remind them, I guess hunger pains, after a few days, that they don't have time to worry about their hundreds of thousands of dollars, their thousands of dollars, even their $50 to $100, whatever they might have in the bank. They don't have time to worry about what was once in there. Because then they'll be living day to day trying to survive. And that's what the point is. So the Great Reset, as many people believe it's happened, hasn't actually happened just yet. And don't forget, the FBI has even come out along with all the predictive programming that's out there. We've had the government tell us flat out. They've warned us that Chinese hackers are preparing to wreak havoc on the U.S. critical infrastructure. But really, the code word there just replace Chinese hackers with globalist United States of American employees, government officials, because your own government will be responsible for this. Your own government, if you haven't noticed, left or right, hates you. And the World Economic Forum continues to prepare us. Every month they put articles out about the cyber pandemic, a need for strengthened cyber resilience in telecoms. And how many films have we seen? Like this film that I just showed you the trailer for, Zero Day, this TV series, Zero Day, Netflix series, whatever they call them these days, right? Where it's all about grid shutdowns. Once they hit a cyber attack, everything goes offline, right? Planes fall out of the sky. We've seen it a million times. Trains can't run on the tracks anymore, right? Mass casualties. And then the government conveniently can bring in unlimited surveillance. The government, freezes all sorts of freedoms. And of course, martial law is implemented and arrests without warrants can occur. Oh, and by the way, the banking system gets shut down as well. Well, we did just see something along those lines, right? Leave the World Behind. Anyone remember this movie? Leave the World Behind is very popular about a year ago. Do you think that the people who made this film, Zero Day, had any idea? Did they not hear about Leave the World Behind? Because, I mean, while it's not verbatim to a T, because one was a movie and one is a series, so there's more episodes, it's very similar with what the world would look like, the chaos that would ensue if there was a mass cyber attack, right? And of course, who was one of the producers on the film? Well, Higher Ground, that Freemasonic logo that you see, and who's behind Higher Ground Productions? Well, Barry Sortoro, Barack Obama, and Big Mike. They're two of the producers, but don't worry. The media out there said, look, yes, President Obama gave notes on Leave the World Behind, but no, there's no conspiracy theory at all. He just randomly was involved in this film that was about shutting down the entire United States of America, taking it offline completely, right? We all remember this image. We've seen it over and over, the cyber attack across the U.S. that they aired in the trailer. Let me just show you the similarities between Leave the World Behind and Zero Day so you can understand predictive programming, because they're pretty much identical plots. This is all about destabilizing countries. And the only way you'll be able to destabilize a country now, this isn't, stories you've heard of wars in the past, where tanks are rolling down the road and people all have, have rifles on them and everybody's got to chip in and get involved with war. We've gotten so dependent on technology that it runs our day-to-day lives. And that's what the government's done by design. So they can destabilize an entire government, entire country by taking it offline. But don't worry, we'll be back online shortly thereafter because our heroes like Elon Musk, who have provided us with Starlink, will make sure we never go offline again. But it won't be about connecting your phone, of course, to Starlink. It'll be about connecting you to Starlink because you will be a part of the Internet of Bodies. But nonetheless, Death to America was the theme from Leave the World Behind. And they gave you a full-on blueprint of how easy it would be to destabilize a government.
If I'm middle of nowhere dropping off thousands of cities, I have no idea what it says.
Death to America.
What?
Death to America. But this part, it definitely means death to America.
It's happening here, it's happening everywhere. We need to get to that bunker Danny told us about, and we need to get there now. You know something? I have a sneaking suspicion, but I want more information first. All the sides were there, sure, but I was scared. You want to call me crazy because it is crazy. It would make more sense if we're on the brink of an all-out invasion. I think we actually let something like this happen. I thought we were smarter than that. My primary client works in the defense sector. I spent a lot of time busting for analysis of military campaigns. There was one program in particular that terrified my client the most. A simple three-stage maneuver that could topple a country's government from within. The first stage was isolation, disable their communication and transportation, make the target as deaf, dumb, and paralyzed as possible. For the second stage, synchronized chaos, terrorize them with covert attacks and misinformation, allowing their defense capabilities, leaving their weapon systems vulnerable to extremists in their own military. Without a clear enemy motive, people will start turning on each other. The third stage will happen on its own. What's the third stage? Coup d'etat, civil war, collapse. This program is considered the most cost-effective way to destabilize a country because if the target nation was dysfunctional enough, it would, in essence, do it for you. Whoever started this wants us to finish it.
So of course you would think, seeing that maybe the people who came up with the plot for Zero Day and pitched it to Netflix, maybe they sat there and said, I don't know, I mean, this sounds a lot similar to that movie that just came out a year ago. Aren't we supposed to be making art? Aren't we supposed to be coming up with new ideas and new themes? I mean, I'm sure there's scripts floating around Hollywood with ideas that nobody's ever thought of before, but they just keep making the same movies about the same exact things, right? Every month, you'll get an alien movie. Every month, you'll get some type of movie about a natural disaster, right? Programming you into thinking it has something to do with the climate, right? Programming you into thinking that aliens exist. Programming you with predictive programming so that you accept what is eventually going to come. Because Hollywood isn't about producing innovative, creative films. It's about programming you. It's about mind control. And that's all that this is. Prepping you for what? Prepping you for inside cyber attacks, power outages, plane crashes, train crashes, mass casualties, life offline temporarily, only to go back online. And for people to believe that there's a conspiracy of somebody in the deep state, who could it possibly be? But the president or the man who used to be president who's in charge of the council, which is Robert De Niro's character, is having a mental decline. A lot like we just saw with President Biden. No. Well, maybe if they do this in 5 years, they can do it with Barack Obama, and he could pretend out in the open to be having a mental decline. But the parallels are not parallels. This is programming, ladies and gentlemen, and they are prepping you to believe, when they decide to do this, that the boogeyman is responsible. And it's imperative that you believe the narrative. And that's why when things go offline only to come back online, they're going to make sure that they still have full control over the airwaves. So even if they go offline and you have a radio, they'll make sure you can hear propaganda news. Because whoever has a radio and batteries in it, they're going to spread that misinformation to their neighbors. They're going to knock on their door and say, I got information. They're going to go, what's the information? Power's been out for 48 hours. Russia's involved. And then they're going to tell two friends, and so on, and so on. And they're going to keep control of the narrative. They will make sure, because it's imperative. Because no real revolution can ever start if they control the narrative. And they will control the narrative. Because whatever boogeyman they tell you is responsible, the people will believe. Instead of realizing that Trump and Obama and all these guys who pretend to hate one another and tell you to hate your neighbor because they vote differently. They're all working together. Because this is what infrastructure sabotage looks like. You can't make it up. You got to love even in the Zero Day series poster with the surveillance cameras on top of the flagpole with the flag at half mast. I mean, they are bringing this in. They're going to bring it in. And people can look at this now and say it's crazy. And even if it doesn't happen the next year or 2 or 3, it will happen. We were telling people in 2016, people like myself and many of the people who are long removed, who have long faded away from doing this stuff because the government's made it so difficult for them to have a voice anymore. We were all talking in 2016 about how there was going to be an outbreak and how that was what the plan was going to be with nanotechnology. And then it occurred. And then some people started waking up. They said, well, these guys were talking about this. And then boom, what did they do? They did a mass wipeout of any channels that were even left. And every time somebody popped back up, They make sure if you're talking about that specific topic with nanotech that they would take it right down. And eventually topics like this will be removed, saying that there's a conspiracy between the United States government and all the other governments in the world working together. And who are they working against? They're working against their own civilians, keeping you divided, keeping you hating your next door neighbor based on skin, gender, whatever way they possibly vote. Well, they're the ones who are not only overreaching in our day-to-day lives, they're the ones who are forcing all of us into living in a world that none of us want to live in. And they're going to try to convince you along the way that the world that they're creating is a utopia, that it's perfect. It's perfect for them because you're not going to be able to breathe without them knowing about it. And that's what they're bringing about. And a major cyber shutdown, a major grid shutdown is all part of it for digital ID and for this infrastructure to be permanently in place where there is no more fraud, they'll tell you. The only thing that'll be hackable, of course, will be you because your genetics will be hacked. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.
I like it. It's mine. The prices blow my mind. I feel so rich. I feel like a